horrible things were being said about her. And she started doing all these interviews trying to set the record straight because he had been missing for 5 weeks. And in this time period, a lot of horrible things had been said about her. So what I find really interesting is that she would make these incredibly long public statements, almost as if to not only attack her attackers, but try, it sounds almost like setting up an alibi. Mm-hmm. Because she starts, these are just some excerpts of her statements, which I find very unusual, and I think it's very important. She starts talking about how social media has been so devastating to her and devastating to her family, and how she wants, her stepson Gannon to come back as soon as possible. She starts giving these interesting details. She talks about how Gannon, she says, quote, was helping me unload in the garage and cut his foot because there are a lot of tools, because Albert, that would be her husband and the boy's father, does a lot of woodworking. Now, my head, I see a red flag and I think, you're trying to set up an explanation for why someone might find blood in their garage. That's what I'm thinking. She goes on to say that he sat on the edge of the car, we bandaged it up, and he was good to go. So she also makes a very strong point in this letter. She says that he kept checking the gate, because he's the only one who has the key to the gate.
The boy?
The boy. And how proud he is that he has the key to the gate. So she starts putting all these things out publicly that kind of have everyone going in different directions. She also starts asking neighbors to start thinking back if they saw any suspicious cars, because he was probably abducted. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that the police then, the sheriff's department, issues a statement and says, no, we don't consider this an abduction case. So this is all unfolding over the 5 weeks where the boy is missing. Then one of the neighbors decides to check all of his video surveillance cameras. And he really was trying to get to see what he could possibly see. And he hit bingo like you can't imagine. He actually, on his surveillance, this is the neighbor, he was able to show her leaving in the morning, the stepmother leaving with Gannon in the morning, and then coming back to the house early afternoon in the same pickup truck, but there was no Gannon. And remember, her story clearly was that he was home and had walked out of the house and gone to the neighbors. Mm-hmm. So that changed everything, that piece of video, because it basically proved that if you look at the video, it doesn't add up with her story, because she never came back with him. The last time anyone saw that little boy alive was about 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. And she claims at 3 p.m. he walked out the door to go to a friend's house. And no one did ever find this friend, which I always found very suspicious. So what she does is she makes a statement about the video. She accuses the authorities of leaking this video. I don't think it was really leaked. The neighbor gave it to everybody, including the media. She actually puts out an incredible statement. She says, quote, "Please don't think for a second that there isn't enough of technology to determine shadows and movement around the truck." So she's claiming he's there, you just don't see him. But this is the best part. She says, "There's also proof from my phone that we had taken a selfie in the truck in our driveway, and it was time-stamped." She said that selfie was taken and then sent to the father because she always does that when he's out of town. Do you find that interesting, or do you think that is an alibi?
Well, did they produce a selfie with the timestamp?
She just referred to it.
Well, I mean, this is an investigator and a prosecutor's dream. You have actually no clear evidence at all, and you have this potential suspect. But in the beginning, who knew what her relationship would be to this purported crime, and she stupidly made this vast statement in social media and essentially got caught up in these terrible contradictions. And it was just a great piece of investigative luck and hard work to get the surveillance camera. That, I think, is the critical. When you find a dramatic contradiction like that, that's just a nail in the coffin. That's really going to be exploited by the prosecution.
Letecia, the stepmother, also made a comment which I think is very telling. She said, quote, "I took care of Gannon for the last 2 years in our home because his mother didn't want to do it." Mm-hmm. This is before she's even arrested.
Well, she's trying to present evidence that this would be so absurd to ever accuse her of engaging in such a dramatic, nefarious plot of killing her stepson. So she's essentially, but this case and the other are really ugly cases because they don't seem to be anything linked to passion or just someone just losing it. These are premeditated, apparently, from the facts I see, planned out murders. And this suspect, now she's a defendant, her motive seems very, very absurd. I mean, where is she going in order to retaliate against the actual boy's mother? I mean, it's a very strange case. But
well, she even adds, this is again before she was charged, and we're going to get into the charges. She even adds, she makes it clear that she says, quote, "I'm going to be so ecstatic when I am able to say to people that you should really sincerely apologize to me for everything that you have said about me." Right. She kept saying, when Gannon comes back, you're all going to have to apologize to me for all the nasty things you've said. Instead, what ends up happening this week, on March 2nd, she gets arrested for first-degree murder. So on March 2nd, that's Monday, the El Paso County Sheriff's Department announces that they have arrested Letecia Stauch in South Carolina. She, her husband, and her extended family are all from there. What is unclear is, when did she leave Colorado? The boy's been missing for 5 weeks, and why was she somewhere else? So we don't have any details on why she was there, but she was arrested by the Myrtle Beach police. Letecia is being charged with first-degree murder of a child under 12 in a position of trust, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased body, and tampering with evidence. When the El Paso County Sheriff's Department made their announcement this week, they not only shocked everyone that the stepmother is the one who's being held responsible, but they also are clearly saying they don't believe that Gannon is alive. They have already given up hope that he's alive. In fact, the police are certain he's dead, but they haven't found his body. They did say that they believe they've narrowed the area in which they think his body may be, but I don't know what that is based on. So, Ron, how do you prosecute a case without a body?
Well, I mean, this isn't the first time because people have, the corpus has been disappeared or actually been destroyed or burnt in other murder cases. At the end of the day, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, and whether a jury will be able to embrace that the child actually was murdered remains to be seen. But
well, if the authorities say that they are certain he is dead, there must be some evidence that they are basing that on. They haven't found the body, but they say they're narrowing down where they think the body could be.
So what you're suggesting is there's evidence that we don't know about.
Yes.
Yeah, that essentially gives them confidence that the body, that first of all he's killed, that he hasn't been abducted, that he's not imprisoned somewhere. And that and what seems to dovetail with that is there's a location. So from what I read and what I've heard from you, I don't know. But if law enforcement is making that bold of a statement, my intuition is they have something. They have something that says he's actually dead. That they had to meet some threshold standard to be able to issue such charges. It's not like they can just willy-nilly say he's dead, because just because he's gone doesn't mean he's dead. He could be abducted. He could be a
Well,
runaway.
no, here's what the El Paso County Sheriff's lieutenant said during this press conference. Quote, "We do not believe Gannon is alive. Our work is only just beginning as we continue our relentless pursuit of justice for Gannon and his family." He added that the investigation could take several more weeks to several more months, and the affidavit was sealed. So we don't know
Right.
what was in there. And I'm sure that that is certainly on purpose.